Here we are, guys, a little bit over halfway at number 13 on the draft analysis. We're going to be looking at William Rowat's team. William has been around for quite a while now, and he has improved a lot since he first came. So, first off, he drafted as his captain Metagross, and the rest of his team: Boltund, Beware, Regirock, Frostlass, Mega Camerupt, Swanna, Kadabra, and Go-Goat. So he scored his overall team 37, but I think this is a really strong team, despite the score not being like right at like 39 or something like that. But I'll get into the things that kind of bring the score down a little bit. First off, though, I scored his offense at 9.5. Now, this would be a 10 if his offensive Pokemon didn't share the same weaknesses. So obviously some are covered, but Metagross, Regirock, Mega Camerupt, and Boltund, they all share Earthquake weakness, so that is something that brings it down to that 0.5. If they didn't share that Earthquake weakness, I feel like it would be easily a 10, because Earthquake is so spammable against this team, and the mons that resist or immune Earthquake don't really have the greatest defenses. Now, Go-Goat has a lot of HP, but he doesn't have good defense. I think it's like base 60, 65. And Swanna is in the 60s as well. Yeah, Swanna base 63 and base 75 HP, so really not that high. They definitely don't want to be taking a ton of moves. Although both of them having reliable recovery, Swanna in Roost and Go-Goat being a Pokemon that gets Milk Drink. So a very explosive offense, I think. Metagross, Mega Camerupt, Beware, and even Boltund in this type of draft I think is pretty explosive with Strongjaw. So Metagross, we've seen though to be a good captain, that Steel Psychic type and the access to Bullet Punch, and being a really good weakness policy spammer, abuser, is pretty scary considering its defenses are so good. In this type of draft, it's very hard to one-hit KO this type of Pokemon without another Mon that's in the same tier. So overall, a great Pokemon to have as your captain. Other than that, though, Metagross, it has access to Rock, Sand Headbutt, Rock Slide. What else do we have here? Earthquake, Body Press, Meteor Mash, obviously, as well. Explosion was one that I really liked on it, and Trick was another move that I really liked on it as options to make Metagross a little bit less predictable when he comes. The weakness policy is obviously a good mix-up as well, instead of just Choice Band or Choice Scarf or Expert, Belt, Life Orb. Sorry, excuse me. But aside from that, Metagross really doesn't have that great coverage. I was quite surprised actually when I was looking into him. He's kind of really hard to mix up your opponent and what he's going to bring. The biggest mix-up is itemization, and if you have Frisk, you can kind of tell exactly what he's got as a moveset right away. So Rock Polish is another option, but we see that normally with weakness policy, still totally viable without it. We have also Boltund, like I mentioned earlier. He has Strongjaw, which I do think this is an explosive Pokemon in this tier of draft. So Strongjaw giving him a 1.5 boost to bite-based moves, and then Boltund having access to Thunder Fang, Fire Fang, Play Rough, Psychic Fangs. Also has Volt Switch, Crunch. Surprisingly, it would have been really good if this got Ice Fangs as well. Since he is kind of walled by heavy ground type, so but I do think this is still a very explosive Pokemon. Access to Bulk Up as well, and with its speed being 121 base, which reaches, I just want to give you guys the exact number because even myself, I don't really go off the base too much. So 121 reaches 375, so you can easily just run a Bulk Up set. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, base 60s really aren't that great, but with Boltund's speed being so high, he can easily get a Bulk Up in right away, and that puts his 157 defense times 1.5 times 1.5. That puts his defense at 235 right away. Now, if he gets that for free, he can set up another one. And that ups his attack and then just makes him really strong cleanup or sweeper, right? Not to mention, that's an incredible amount of coverage that he has. He also has access to run himself as a special attacker as well. Although he doesn't really have nearly the amount of coverage in special attack, almost next to none, so highly unlikely that we'll see him run as special set. It does have access to Nuzzle though, which I could see him running as well, just to catch those incoming Pokemon off guard. But generally we're going to see the Volt Switch, Thunder Fang, Fire Fang, play rough, Psychic Fangs, or Crunch, right? So we also have Beware, Regirock, Mega Camerupt, and Kadabra on the offensive side. Now the other Pokemon can be offensive, but I'm going to leave those into the utility based section, and defense and momentum hazards, I'll leave those for that. Since I don't want to spend all of this time on his offense, which I feel like is his best trait, but his utility Pokemon are also very good as well. Beware, also adding to the explosiveness of his team. The bulk of his team too is in his offensive mons is really great. Beware having base 80 defense and 120 HP with access to the ability Fluffy, which halves incoming contact moves. So Beware having access to Swords Dance, Bulk Up, being normal fighting kind of sucks, but he does get access to Stab, Double Edge, and Body Slam, which I want to say Stab Body Slam is super underrated. It's extremely annoying to deal with. It does a ton of damage if the Pokemon's got any attack investment, and then it has the ability to also parry you, which is super annoying. So I think Stab Body Slam is really good. I do like it over Double Edge, in my opinion. Beware doesn't really want to take all that chip damage. He does have a lot of HP, and he does get access to Drain Punch. I just don't feel like Double Edge is really needed. If you're wanting some powerful move like that, I feel like Close Combat is way better. I get the idea though, Double Edge Drain Punch, you can recover that back. I don't know, I feel like it's kind of it kind of breaks the idea of just like healing up, because you're gonna Double Edge after you've already been hit. I guess, I don't know, I'd prefer Close Combat and Body Slam if that's what you're going for, or Drain Punch and Body Slam. If you're setting up anyways, he doesn't need to have Double Edge or Close Combat, in my opinion. Also gets Darkest Lariat, Aerial Ace, Body Press, Bulldoze, Drain Punch, Dragon Claw, Dual Chop, Earthquake, Iron Head, Low Kick, Ice Punch, Rock Slide, Rock Tomb, Stomping Tantrum, and then, like I said earlier, he also gets Sword Stance and Bulk Up. So Zen Headbutt is another thing, piece of coverage that he gets. Surprisingly enough, I really haven't seen Beware be too much of a threat. When I always picture this Pokemon to be a threat, since its ability Fluffy is good, it never seems to get off what it wants to do. I almost think this would be a better like bulky chip Pokemon. It does have access to Baby Doll Eyes, which is a priority 1. Would be pretty annoying to deal with. And then the Drain Punch as well. Also gets access to Toxic, which would be pretty annoying. Toxic, Protect, Drain Punch, and then some sort of coverage move. So, but also on the list of offense, I'm going to put Regirock in there, since he does have 100 base attack, and he is always an offensive threat that you need to prep for, since Iron Defense Body Press is always threatening. That is always something to look out for, since it can easily sweep a team if you don't have something to lock it into one move or immune the Body Press. Regirock can also be taunted, Toxic, and Choice Locked, so that is a way to stop it. But generally, if you don't have any of those things or a Ghost type, this is something you have to prep for, or it's going to sweep your team. But the last two on the offensive side that I'm going to get to is Mega Camerupt and Kadabra. So, sorry one sec here, guys. Now, Mega Camerupt is the epitome, in my opinion, when I say explosiveness. On this team, he is the focal point of the explosiveness. As we've seen, William really likes to lead it since it puts a lot of people into a hard position. Camerupt having Sheer Force and then Fire Blast or Eruption. I think he gets Eruption. Yeah, no, Fire Blast is way better though because the Sheer Force. A Fire Blast, Earth Power. And having that times 4 weakness to water kind of sucks, but he does have 70 HP, 100 defense, and 105 special defense, so it's not terrible. He probably will be one hit by most water type attacks, but again, he's a great lead because he got Stealth Rocks as well. And like I said, that Fire Blast Earth Power coverage puts a lot of people to a hard position because it's generally going to 2-hit KO a lot of Pokemon, especially in this type of draft. And what I mean by that when I say this type of draft has a lot of low tier Pokemon with not very high defenses, and to have Mega Pokemon like Mega Camerupt in there who have Sheer Force and base 145, base 145 special attack with Sheer Force. It's like a Mega Pokemon that can hold Life Orb without the Life Orb damage. So, for example, let's do we'll do Mega Camerupt. We'll just do the tank version, which is what they have in the Pokemon calculator. So it's 326 special attack. That's no EVs invested, and we'll go against somebody in the draft. So let's pick a neutral Pokemon. Let's pick Drapion or something. Drapion. Yeah, so look at this. I mean, Fire Blast with no EVs invested. We'll do 252 HP on Drapion. No EVs invested. This is a fully defensive Mega Camerupt. Fire Blast still hits it for 77 to 91%, putting it in 2-hit KO range. Not a lot of Pokemon just want to stay in on this unless it's like Moltres and you straight up immune those two moves. But again, Mega Camerupt also gets access to Hidden Power in this draft and has Ancient Power, which is Ancient Power boosted. Will hit harder than Hidden Power Rock. So, and then of course Earth Power just KOing Drapion with no EVs invested. But you put 252 into this, which it doesn't need, but you could do 252 HP, 252 special attack. Modest Fire Blast just outright KOs 252 HP Drapion. So that's an example of what I mean by that. Like a lot of Pokemon, unless they're heavy resisting and are in special defense, they're gonna be 2-hit KO by this, which really sucks to go against. So this is a very explosive Pokemon on his team. Outside of that though, Mega Camerupt setting up rocks and just firing off Fire Blast and Earth Powers, it doesn't do a whole lot more. Now there's some other options that it has. It has Toxic, Will-O-Wisp, and Yawn. Toxic could be an option to take out the things that resist its coverage moves. But I also think Yawn, like I was mentioning in my earlier reviews, I think Yawn is a really underrated move, and for a team that doesn't have a lot of like momentum, like U-turn and Volt Switch on it, I think Yawn would be really good. It would force a lot of switches, and William is definitely more knowledgeable enough to make a prediction on that, so he yawns it and either they're going to go to sleep or he can make a prediction and switch into something that's more viable to these situations. So Camerupt also does get Explosion, but that is it. That is all I will be able to mention about Camerupt. I really don't see it doing a whole lot more. I mean, you could run a physical set, but it is far less potent and a lot harder to set up and use than just firing off Fire Blasts and Earth Powers. So that is all for Mega Camerupt. And last but not least, of course, we're going to mention Kadabra. Kadabra is a very good Pokemon. Basically the exact same as Alakazam. Obviously doesn't have the same HP or defenses or special attack speed, but it is still very fast, very strong. A timid Alakazam still has 339 special attack and 339 speed, so that is really good in this draft. And then of course with Gen 8 coming, we have Nasty Plot on Kadabra now. So you know, Magic Guard, Focus Sash, Nasty Plot, and then its speed tier allows it to set that up and just fire off psychics, or whatever it needs to in terms of coverage. But the fact that he doesn't have the same defenses as Alakazam doesn't matter at all, since both of them basically get one hit anyways, from any physical attack. So I actually do believe. Yeah, just a funny note, fake out from Ambipom with Life Orb, without Life Orb, is still 37.5 chance to one hit KO. So that's what I mean. Like, it just doesn't matter. You're generally wanting to run Magic Guard, Focus Sash. You do have the option to run Life Orb as well, since Magic Guard will alleviate that Life Orb damage, but that Nasty Plot set with Focus Sash is so much more potent in most cases, but he may need the Life Orb set as a cleaner, since he doesn't really have a cleaner outside of Boltund, and if Boltund is not in a good matchup, Kadabra definitely could be. So but aside from that, Kadabra is really just going to be attacking. It's just going to click buttons, so you definitely don't want to be doing Toxic or anything like tricky like that on Kadabra, since you're just taking away its viability. You know, it does have Taunt. Those are things that you can use against much more passive Pokemon, but Pokemon that have any form of physical damage. Like, you know, you're not going to see Kadabra stand in front of Miltank and taunt it. Miltank's just going to body slam it and probably kill it. So you're definitely going to see this Pokemon come in attack form almost every single time. But that's it for offensive Pokemon. Like I said, I'm going to leave out Frostlass, Swanna, and Go-Goat, since these Pokemon you generally won't see these as offensive Pokemon. Now Go-Goat and Swanna and Frostlass can all be offensive. Go-Goat having high HP, decent attack, access to bulk up, Milk Drink make it a bulky type of sweeper, but he needs it for that Earthquake coverage, and I'm assuming that's why he picked it up. I would have liked to see him instead of the Go-Goat. Now I know the Swanna is helping him with the water and rock weakness, but he doesn't even have. So he has one rock weakness in Frostlass, and the water weakness in Regirock and Mega Camerupt here. But I really think Silvally flying would have sufficed. Swanna has such poor defenses, and it's forced to run heavy duty boots just so it doesn't take any damage, because it's going to need 100% HP to deal with any attacks. But anyways, I'll get into that in a second here. So his defense, I scored a 6.5. Definitely the worst part about his team definitely doesn't want to play passive at all. It needs to be clicking attack at all times. Like I said earlier, he has a lot of Earthquake weakness on his team, and only 2 Mons to really deal with that. And then those 2 Mons, like I was saying earlier, they don't really have good defenses. Swanna and Go-Goat are the Pokemon that I'm referring to in dealing with that Earthquake, but the Earthquake weaknesses being shared by Metagross, Mega Camerupt, Regirock, and Boltund really hurt his team in terms of preparation, and make it really easy for the opponent to just put Earthquake on basically every single Mon and spam it, and then put in some sort of coverage for Swanna, which I want to give an example here. So if Ambipom learned Earthquake, I'll do no Life Orb Ambipom here, and we'll do Swanna, and we'll do 252 HP and 252 defense. So Swanna immunes the Earthquake, and then Swanna is going to be taking, if it's a fully defensive Swanna, is going to be taking 37 to 44% off of a return. Non-Life Orb Ambipom, and Ambipom is not that strong. So that is what I'm referring to. You get something like, Mega Ampharos. I'm using my Pokemon just because I can't think of other neutral Pokemon. And obviously you'd use an electric move, but let's say Swanna is switching into a resisted move like Focus Blast, because I'm going to Focus Blast something. Focus Blast still hits Swanna for 35 to 41%, and if I decide to use a neutral move like Dragon Pulse, it's 74 to 88. So this is what I mean by Swanna and Go-Go definitely don't want to be coming in and taking a whole bunch of attacks, because they're not super high in defense, and then they're not super fast either, so it's not like they're going to be able to come in and roost up or milk drink up right away. They aren't that safe to do those things. So I actually think I just want to compare Cramorant, because they're worth the same. So Cramorant has a lot better special defense, but terrible defense. So yeah, no, I really think that Silvally flying would be a lot better in Swanna's position right now. Although it doesn't have Roost, it is way more defensive. It has way more options that it can do. Parting Shot, U-turn, has coverage. It can be a sweeper. It just makes it more viable for his team, in my opinion. He's got the electric coverage with Mega Camera Up. I don't see Swanna fitting too well in this defense. I just feel like it needs to be a lot bulkier, especially if it's going to be relied on this heavily to defog away or deal with those earthquake attacks or those neutral coverage attacks. So that's how I feel about Swanna and Go-Goat. Like I said, though, they both have reliable recovery in terms of Milk Drink and Roost. So they do have something going for them. Go-Goat does have an annoying Leech Seed as well. So, but you have Pokemon like Regirock, who also can be very, very strong switch-ins defensively. Regirock having 364 max HP, and then you don't have to put a dime into defense since it's 436 with no EVs invested, so you can throw that all into special defense, make it a careful nature, and then he has 364 HP, 436 defense, 328 special defense. Now that's a pretty good Pokemon to switch in. Pair that with an Assault Vest, it's pretty hard to deal with and get rid of. That's if he is running Stealth Rock on Mega Camera Up. Then he can definitely just run Assault Vest and run 4 attacks, because I think Regirock has a decent amount of coverage. So Rock Blast or Stone Edge, Body Press, Earthquake, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, probably Thunder Punch. Yeah, Thunder Punch. What else? You get it. Yeah, and Explosion. So Drain Punch as well. So I mean, definitely a great set. Run an Assault Vest set on Regirock, help you cover those special attacks that your team really can't deal with. Outside of that, you're going to see Regirock bring Stealth Rock, Toxic, Seismic Toss, things like that. Also has Iron Head, and like I said earlier, in the offensive side, has Iron Defense, Body Press. So, and last on the defensive side that I am going to mention is Frostlass. So this Pokemon surprised me a little bit. Its base stats are actually really good. Well, not like really good, like not like OU good or anything, but like they were a lot higher than I expected. So 70, base 70 HP, base 80 attack, base 70 defense, base 80 special attack, base 70 special defense, and 110 HP. So this is a really good lead for his team. You can taunt, you can run Focus Sash, and then you can taunt if they're going to be, setting up rocks in your face. You can taunt Spikes, and then, of course, since it's fast enough, you can just Destiny Bond away. So a really good lead for his team. Kind of a utility Pokemon, not so much as a defensive. 252 speed, 252 HP, but can be defensive. Resist Bug, Ice, Poison, immune to fighting and normal. So his team does have one fighting. Beware, weak to fighting too, I think. Yeah. So being immune to fighting, I guess, helps the Regirock and Beware coverage, but most fighting type Pokemon have knockoff, and I mean, you could just easily click knockoff and probably almost kill it. So, but like I said, that Destiny Bond trapping is super annoying. So Process is a option to run defensively, utility based. It's out that spikes, taunt, and kamikaze itself with Destiny Bond. So overall, I think one of the better picks on his team. Yet to see it utilized, I think, but I hope to see that Destiny Bond used a lot more to take out some big offensive threats. Since 110 speed is really good. That 110 speed equals out to 350, so that's fast. That's really fast in this draft. And you know, if William was versing himself, you could just run Frostlass against the Mega Camera Up lead, and you could taunt if you're expecting the rocks. If you're not expecting the rocks, you can just set up some spikes. You can Destiny Bond, but I would probably taunt since you're gonna let that Focus Sash proc anyway, and then the taunt will stop him from setting up rocks. He'll have to attack you, and then you Destiny Bond, take out Mega Camera Up, and you take out a huge threat for your own team. So overall, one of the better defensive Pokemon. I think both actually Frostlass actually. See, Swanna's more useful for his team, but I think Frostlass can be better for his team. Because like I was saying, I really think that Swanna should be Silvally Flying. Although Silvally Flying can't hold heavy duty boots, it just has more things that it can do, and it can come in a lot better, barring the no heavy duty boots. It's just way bulkier. It can switch into things easier if there is no rocks up. So if William hadn't made 2 trades already, I would suggest a Rapid Spinner, and then a Silvally Flying would be really great additions to. But that'll wrap up his defense. You can get really tricky and run like defensive Metagross and Beware and stuff like that, but those are going to be some really high level things that I don't think we're going to be seeing too much. A lot of people are just sticking to really standard stuff, aside from people like I think Robin, who ran it was Robin who ran the Feraligatr Subtoxic set. We're not going to see too much stuff like that, not from this team. Like I said, this team just wants to attack. So generally, if rocks go up, I don't think William's too worried, because his Mega Camera Up is probably going to be out first, and he's just going to fire off Fire Blast and Earth Powers, and he's got Magic Guard for Kadabra, so Metagross doesn't care about rocks. Regirock doesn't care about rocks, and neither does Beware. So next up, we have Speed, which is a 7. So although he has some really slow Pokemon like Beware, Regirock, and Mega Camera Up, I think Go-Goat is quite slow as well. I think it's base 50. Base 68, not that slow. He does have some really fast Pokemon. Boltund reaching 375, Kadabra reaching 339, Frostlass reaching 350, and then Metagross reaching just below 300. Yeah, Jolly Metagross will reach 262. So, but then it has access to Rock Polish as well. So, not the fastest team, not the slowest team by any means. He doesn't really have any other options. I don't think he has any other speed boosting options outside of the Rock Polish. Maybe agility on. I don't think so. I just want to check. He has Rock Polish on Metagross. No agility, no agility. Agility. No agility. Yeah. And then he has no like sticky webs or anything like that, but he does have T-Wave in Boltund. He does have T-Wave in Regirock, which will really help him control the speed if there's Pokemon that are going to outspeed his fastest Pokemon, which I think is a really good option to bring on Regirock if those Pokemon are going to be dealing with your fast Pokemon, or if you find out a Mon is Scarfed. Fishing for that T-Wave on the Scarf Mon would be really useful for his team. These fast mons though, Boltund, Frostlass, and Kadabra, they all perform differently. So Boltund could be a wall breaker, it could be a cleaner. Frostlass being a utility Pokemon, definitely not going to see it as an attacker because its move pool is very, very shallow. Generally really only has Ghost and Ice coverage. And then Kadabra, of course, has great coverage. It can be a setup sweeper or a cleaner, but Boltund performs that cleaning so much better, in my opinion. But also saving Kadabra very late with that Focus Sash, just 4 moves Focus Sash, is also very good. Very hard to deal with since you can't break its Sash unless you attack it. And if William does a really good job of waiting and being patient and bringing it out at the last second, could be something that could easily win him a game or two. So not much more to mention on the speed though. I mentioned the speed control, I mentioned his fast Pokemon. Weakness policy, Rock Polish, Metagross is a threat though. I don't know if he Rock Polished in that set against Hayden. I think he just procced the weakness policy. But that Rock Polish weakness policy set is a super big threat. So since he can run defensive or special defensive EVs, get the 2x boost from weakness policy, and get that 2x boost in speed as well. So even if Metagross has enough EVs, how many EVs to make it 200? Yeah, so Metagross only has to run 24 EVs in Jolly Nature to make it 200, and then you're 400, which is outspeeding basically everything in this draft that isn't Scarfed. Aside from like things like Ninjask and I think there's one other Pokemon. Yeah, Excelgor. So next we have Hazards. Scored this a 7 as well. He has really good hazards set up, which is why this is a 7 and not lower. But he has, in my opinion, very poor hazard removal. Does his team really worry about hazards too much? No, not really, but hazards are a problem if the team that you're versing is super defensive and you've prepped your team not to be, to deal with those super passive teams. For example, versing Hayden's team or something like that. If Hayden's, properly using his Pokemon, and you're not abusing the passiveness of Hayden switching, that Stealth Rock damage will add up super quickly, and Swanna won't be able to survive consecutive hits if Hayden starts or an opponent starts predicting and just attacking Swanna, knowing that its defenses are not that great. So he only has hazard removal from Swanna. So, and like I mentioned many times now, Swanna is not a very bulky Pokemon. In this draft, I understand there's a lot weaker Pokemon, but there's things like Choice Band, Life Orb, boosting, anything. Those things will really be a threat to Swanna. So, like I said, I think that Swanna could be switched out for Silvally Flying or a Rapid Spinner, since he has multiple ways to deal with screens and Brick Break. That could also be an option, switching into the Komala. That would add to his fighting weakness, but give him a Rapid Spinner would give him a Wish Passer. It could help Metagross come in safely. It could keep Mega Camerupt alive. That Komala is a sneaky good pick, I think, for his team. What? Oh, that's Shield Draft. Yeah, so sorry if I'm hitting on the Swanna, guys. Its defenses, its what it's gonna do is, I just feel very limited. It doesn't have U-turn. It basically needs to hard switch in, hard roost, defog, scald, and then it has the opportunity to miss Hurricane too, right? I just feel like this is gonna let his team down more times than it's gonna help his team, in my opinion. So sorry if that offends any of you guys, especially William. I think you have a great team here. This one, in my opinion, brings that score down a lot. But I won't stay on that too much. We'll go on to Momentum now, which is 7. So like I mentioned, his team only has one form of Momentum, and that's on Boltund. In terms of Volt Turning, that's Volt Switch on Boltund. So the Volt Switch on Boltund, kind of useful. Doesn't really Doesn't really matter for this team, since this team is just like send out Mega Camera Up to attack as much as you can. Mega Camera Up dies, send in Beware, setup, attack, right? But like I mentioned, he could add in things like Savali Flying and Parting Shot, U-Turn, things to help his Mons come in more safely, or that Komala and Wish Pass U-Turn and get in something even safer with full health. So I think the momentum from this team in my score, well, not I think, I know, this is why I scored it. The momentum is coming from just how do you deal with the attack pressure? If William's just going to keep clicking attack moves, do you have things to deal with those attack moves effectively? Even if if you don't have anything to fully resist it, are you going to be able to deal with those heavy neutral attacks like Sheer Force, Fire Blast, Mega Camera Up, Banded Meteor Mash from Metagross, or a setup Beware, setup Regirock, Psychic Kadabra? Are you going to be able to deal with those, right? And then not only on that, he can be cleaner, he can have Kadabra sweep a team, that body press, Iron Defense, Regirock is always a threat. And then as we've seen, the weakness policy Metagross come out. This is a super big threat to everybody in the draft. This could easily sweep a team with access to Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, Zen Headbutt, Earthquake, and then whatever coverage he really needs, Ice Punch. And then if he knows he's not going to be able to do much on the last Pokemon, he could have Explosion for a big hurrah at the end and deal some big chip damage. So overall, though, I think this, like I said in the beginning, this is a very explosive team. If you do not lead correctly against this team, I feel like you're going to get a lot of holes blown open into your own team. So leading correctly is super important for both William and his opponent. Like I said, 2 guys, 37. There isn't a lot of teams that are in the 40s or super, like the high 30s, I think, is what I'd say 40s for an OU team. I just couldn't differentiate too well on making this a team that's 43 or something like that, because my mind is set on OU, and by OU standards this team would not be like top notch, obviously, right? But overall, I think this is a good team. Williams playing it incredibly. I think he could add a couple things to his team that would really help out. I think that Komala or Silvally Flying are the best options for his team, in my opinion. Out of the things that I've looked at, I feel like a Parting Shot or a Wish Pass, just a little bit of extra momentum for his team and a little bit of extra bulk for his defensive Pokemon would be really, really helpful. So overall, these have always been fun, and yeah, see you guys on the next one.